Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Muller here. Thanks for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Great to have you here with me right after Christmas. We're going to be looking at a lot of rain as we go throughout the rest of the holiday week here, but could we actually be looking at some wet snow as we get into parts of New Year's here? Yeah, we could have a pattern change coming with the potential for some low pressure systems riding out of the Gulf of Mexico and making a beeline, trying to anyway, up the U.S. East Coast. And we'll be watching to see if this piece of polar vortex breaks off around the first week of January. You can see right around the 4th and 5th, this piece of the polar vortex does try to plunge towards the south. How far south is this expected to make it? We'll get into all the details. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to get started with the European model. Before I continue, if you haven't watched my 2023-24 winter outlook, there's a link in the description down below as well as the end of this video. It starts basically from the end of December through March here, so I think it's still very relevant to what's going to be happening. So as we continue to go in time here, you can see this area of low pressure is kind of getting camped off here along the U.S. East Coast. It's going to bring some showers from the Ohio Valley westward or eastward here towards the coastline. You can see other than that, that's basically the only game in town here. As we continue to go, we have a trough obviously extending back here from this area of low pressure. There's no cold air here, so it's just going to remain mostly in the form of rain. Maybe some of the higher elevations may try to change to snow here, and I'll show you that momentarily on the GFS Precipitation Outlook. But here on December 30th, look what's going on. Look at this, though. This is really setting us up really nice for New Year's here, especially across the southeast, looking really nice. We do have the next system moving here off the west coast, so let's just continue to go out here in time. Look at most of Canada being dominated by lots of high pressure here. So as we continue, look at Mexico too, very clear. But here across the Yucatan Peninsula, I'll show you momentarily in the tropics with my tropical update. But here, this low pressure kind of just gets hung up here across New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland here. That's going to blow up over Newfoundland here. This is December 31st, New Year's Eve, 7 a.m. So let's just propagate that. Look at how clean and clear North America is here. Look what's waiting in the wings here. Look at that. That is some big, massive low pressure systems here. So here we go. This is New Year's Eve. Looking really nice here. If you have New Year's Eve plans, I mean, you do see some precipitation here. We'll get into that momentarily. But for the most part here along the East Coast, Gulf Coast, Central States, West Coast, it is looking really nice here. So let's just go a few more frames out here. Yeah, as we get towards the 2nd into the 3rd, this is where we start to get some interesting things happen. So we got this big piece of energy out west. We got this strengthening low pressure system here on the Gulf. Here's that retreating high in the east. We got a little bit of energy up here into the Great Lakes. So let's just continue this. I have a few more frames here on this model before we flip over to the GFS. It looks like that energy really outpaces the southern low here. So right now, as we go towards January 4th and 5th here, it just doesn't look like this is looking like anything impressive, at least on the European model here. High pressure blocking to the north. All right, so we're getting into the GFS here, precipitation depiction. And you can see here, let's just back it up here. Here is Wednesday, as we head into Wednesday, here it is. So let's just back that up. There we go. So the 27th at 10 a.m., Wednesday. Here we are. We've got rainfall here across the Northeast, this area of low pressure here across the Carolinas. Some snowfall here into the central sections and the northern plains, with that slowly departing blizzard here. The system's kind of run its course, and you can see the Ohio Valley there. You got some rain showers pushing out of the region. And as we kick through about, here we go, December 29th into the, right here as we get towards the weekend, Friday into Saturday. This is Friday. Let's get a timestamp on this, 4 p.m. So as you're getting out, if you still have work or you don't have school but work, we might have some wet snowflakes here across parts of the Ohio Valley into the Appalachians. This is something really to keep an eye on here. There's an area of low pressure that will be potentially pulling some colder air down into parts of this region. I don't think we might see some bursts of heavier snow here, especially across West Virginia, extreme southwestern Pennsylvania. But for the most part, even into northern New England here, this is not going to be a massive blockbuster snowstorm by any stretch of the imagination. That pulls out pretty quick. But as we get towards New Year's Day here, we got something on the GFS trying to develop here. Here's another area of low pressure coming up just south of the Ohio Valley, kind of riding up the spine of the Appalachians here. So we got a big old low pressure here across Hudson Bay. Our next system coming into the Four Corners region. So watch this. Watch what happens here into the northeast. We kind of get a low pressure system that tries to get hung up here. And you can see we're going to potentially, it's going to be very marginal temperature-wise for snow, but, you know, some of the higher elevations could pull off some heavy accumulations. The only thing that I'm not impressed with here is this low's kind of heading way out to sea. There's nothing, I mean, there is a weakness up here. You can see a trough, the bend in these isobars, so there's that trough, but it's really not focusing. These two really aren't connecting, but there's still plenty of time to watch this. This is hour 174 out, and here it is. This kind of holds back this trough. But look at this. This is what I wanted to show you. January 3rd, look what starts to happen. There's this area of low pressure here across the Western Gulf, southern Texas. Look at this up here. This is cold enough for snow all the way down into Mississippi, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and parts of northeast Texas. So watch what happens here. You know these isobars up here in the Ohio Valley and northeast, you know you're going to have some lake effect here. This is right around January 3rd. So as we continue to go in time, this system kind of pushes and propagates across the Gulf of Mexico. And this is where we start to see some development take place. We got this cold high to the north here. Let me just zoom out a bit. You can see this big cold 1026 millibar high. Could we have some snow in the mid-Atlantic and parts of the south here in Appalachians? Well, this is something we'll have to keep a very close eye on. Look at this 978 millibar low bombing up towards Newfoundland here as well. So look at this. That high seems to block this low pressure system from riding right up the coast. It literally just goes out to sea. But you can see here, the pattern is here for colder. This is towards January 7th. Although, this is, if you want snow in the east, you don't want to see low pressure systems ejecting straight from Colorado like this. Yeah, if you're in the Midwest, you're going to see, you know, this kind of storm. Too early to say whether that's going to happen, but of course, that's just hour 300, by the way. So there it is, pulling warm air all the way up into the northeast, and then a secondary low with big, heavy snow on the backside. Can't get into details this far out, but that is an interesting pattern that we could be getting ourselves into here. All right, so taking a look at this temperature outlook here, we're going to get a good idea. You can see as we go through New Year's here, all of the cold air is essentially bottled up way up here towards the Arctic Circle. There's very little cold air intrusions. Here in the Rocky Mountains, typically there is, you know, those higher peaks, but it's towards January 1st here, New Year's Day. We start to see a big chunk of cold air break off here. You can see what's building up here, though. These darker green colors. Essentially, what's going to happen here is we see a plunge starting here January 3rd. Let me just zoom in a bit here. You can start to see the nose of this polar vortex starting to push down into much of Canada. Not just eastern Canada, but western Canada, and really building here into central Canada towards January 5th. So let's take a look at the GFS model here as we go out onto the polar vortex watch here. This is right around the 4th of January, the 5th. Look what's starting to happen here across Canada. You start to see noses of this occur. Let's just get this rolling. Here it is. You can see this is kind of starting to push down in towards the lower 48 of the U.S. here. So watch this. I'll just put this into motion. You can see as we get towards January 10th into the 11th, look at this. Yeah, if this verifies, that's some really cold air coming down, especially into central North America here. So here we go with the European, and I'll transition over to the medium range climate CFS model. Here we go as we head towards the weekend, New Year's. There's that trough kind of hung up across the southeast. It kind of fools you into thinking maybe things are wintry. Initially, they're not, but on the northern fringes, that's where we could see some wet snowflakes kicking in. So as we continue to go in time here, I don't expect many accumulations as we head through New Year's here. I'll keep you posted if things change there, but something to keep an eye on here. Look at that again as we go Friday into Saturday, that trough kicking across the East Coast here, and then across the Ohio Valley again on New Year's Day. Now look what starts to happen here. We get a ridge building in behind it here as we get towards the 4th, and then we got this trough kicking off the southeast coast. There's that blocking ridge I was telling you about, that ridge of high pressure. Kind of pushes our storm out to sea here. But look what's forming just behind it. Let's take a look at the CFS. So here we are with the CFS. Let's just go out here the first week of January. There's that ridge developing there across the east coast. CFS bringing that next storm here across the Ohio Valley. Don't focus on any just one storm. We're looking for patterns here. Look at the west. Yeah, the CFS is not impressing me here with potential for winter here across the east coast. But look at this. This is kind of interesting. If this does verify, right around the middle of January, we could be looking at a big blast of wintry conditions here on the backside of this. So look at there. There it is again. 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. A ridge kicks in. So, yeah, what I'm seeing here on the CFS, I know you're seeing a lot of headlines that we're going to see some massive polar vortex, and I'm not arguing against that, but I'm just going to throw it out there, at least on our CFS medium range climate model, at least through third week of January into the fourth week. Until you get to about the fourth week, that's when you start to see the solidification of these troughs here. And then you start to see the signs here of ridging in Greenland and the Gulf of Alaska. That's what you want to see for some East Coast troughs here, and then eventually East Coast snowstorms. So your total snowfall accumulations here, winding up the blizzard, winding down, I should say, here across the northern plains. Maybe additional accumulations close to 6 inches, but that will be on its way out. Northern Maine here and southeast Canada, New Brunswick getting hit there with some advisory criteria snow. But here it is as we head towards January 5th here. You start to see the evidence of really a lot of snow kicking in here across parts of the plains. So let's look at the GFS here. It's pretty similar, at least through New Year's here. Now watch this. Here we go. This is January 8th. This is basically just for eye candy purposes here. Don't take this literally. But this is pretty interesting. As we go through January 11th here, you start to see the pattern here for much more snow, even some potential southern snow here. But I do caution you, these models flip back and forth pretty violently this far out, so take this with a grain of salt. So what's snowfall looking like here into the northeast? Well, let's take a look here. Yeah, it's not too much. Look at through the rest of the week, only northern Maine there and parts of northern New England getting upwards of maybe advisory criteria, maybe as high as 4 to 6 inches here in northern Maine. But as we get into the weekend here, into New Year's Day, the cold air starts to filter in, and you can see lake effect, lake enhancement does take over here on northeast Ohio all the way through northern New York here, where you could see maybe 1 to maybe up to 4 inches here. Those mountainous areas of West Virginia, eastern West Virginia, could see upwards of 6 inches. All right, so the European model here, let's take a look at liquid equivalent precipitation. Yeah, it's going to be a rainy time of it from the Ohio Valley into parts of the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. Yeah, you're going to just get inundated. It does get pretty quiet through the New Year's until about next Thursday, the Gulf Coast low. Look at out west here. Most of this occurs towards New Year's here and beyond, so yeah, you're going to be looking at some heavy rains. So as we get into the Northeast here, let's take a look at your liquid equivalent. Most of this is liquid, by the way. So as we go through Wednesday, here's Wednesday. About 1/4 to 1/2 inch on average. Look what's pushing up through Virginia, though, and Maryland here into Thursday. Wednesday night and Thursday. That is a little bit concerning through the Susquehanna Valley over towards the Hudson Valley. But thankfully, this is nowhere near as heavy the last couple weekends that you saw some heavy rain. So, I'm not going to sound the flood alert just yet because, I think we can somewhat handle this, especially if it doesn't go over 2 inches here. So, and then a generalized here into the purples here, about 1 inch to 1.25 inches here. And then back towards Ohio, it falls off pretty rapidly here, 1/2 inch in Cleveland. And then look at that, 1 inch in Pittsburgh, 1.25 inches in Erie, 1.5 inches there in Binghamton. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, southward to Harrisburg. That's where we'll see the 2 to maybe 2.25. So if we take a look at our future radar here, precipitation depiction is on. We got that area of low pressure here across the southeast and that big old low out here that caused, all the energy here with our blizzard. Let's take a look. We don't have too much happening out west except for this big system just off the coast. Now, as we get into Wednesday morning here, look at these showers streaming up across eastern Ohio, western New York, and Pennsylvania. That's all in association with a few pieces of energy. First, this low pressure system actually pushing a lot of tropical moisture up here into the northeast. This next low pressure system with, spiraling around with snow, but most of its energy's been spent here on that blizzard. It is interesting, though. We'll see probably additional accumulations out here in parts of the plains, but look at up here into parts of the northeast. This is where we start to see a heavier rains. This is 4 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon, and look at this, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., we get an area of heavier rain here across the Susquehanna River Valley into the Hudson River Valley, New Jersey area, so we'll have to watch out here. I don't think there's going to be any major flooding problems, but, some minor areas could occur, and then this low pressure winds up the coast here towards Thursday morning, where, look at that, southern New England and the Hudson Valley really getting in on the act. Now, look what's happening back here. Yeah, some snowfall here into parts of eastern Iowa and Illinois as colder air filters in on the backside of this low. So for your tropics here, it is looking really nice here across the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, Central America. We do have some showers that'll be developing here towards the 27th, Wednesday at 4 p.m. afternoon. But look at this. We got a little area of low pressure out here into the Atlantic. It's not going to be basically anything more than a fish storm. So as we continue to go out in time here, here's the 28th. We got a little bit of moisture hung up here over the Cayman Islands, parts of Honduras here and Belize. So we'll be getting some heavier showers here, but nothing too bad to write home about. As we continue to go in time, you notice a common theme, though, as we head through New Year's here, the 30th. Lots of moisture hung up, especially across southern Mexico as well. We're going to keep an eye on this. Also, rainfall here around Dominican Republic, Haiti, eastern Cuba, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos here. Look at that. This almost looks like, tropical moisture getting entrained into an old stalled out frontal boundary. And that's going to be the focal point for some heavier showers and thunder showers here. You can see, we'll just zoom in just a tad here. You can see lots of tropical moisture from Honduras all the way up here through the Bahamas and southeast of Bermuda. So as we continue to go out here in time, nothing too terribly bad. That kind of washes out. You see the easterly trade winds kicking up here, so not too bad here. We got a little stalled out frontal boundary south of Jamaica towards January 3rd. That just washes out to the northeast here, and we set us up for a nice drying trend, with the exception for a little wave here that will bring some gusty showers here to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands towards January 5th. All right, so GFS here on the tropics. Let's take a look, see if it agrees pretty much with the European model. So we got a big old area of low pressure, that basically the trough, the front here pushing through as we head towards Thursday into Friday. Yeah, it's going to affect the Bahamas up there down to Honduras and Belize. So lots of heavy rain here into the western Caribbean, even down towards Panama here. So that kind of pushes up. We get a stalled out frontal boundary here. So if you're in the Bahamas, central and eastern Bahamas here, all the way up through Belize, Honduras, Cayman Islands, we'll have to watch even here into Jamaica. Look at this surge of moisture here on the GFS. This is something we'll keep an eye on. I'll show you those rainfall amounts momentarily. They're forecast to show up here, but thankfully that does kind of move out. Here is New Year's Day, looking pretty good. I mean, we do have some residual showers here from parts of Nicaragua, Honduras, all the way up into parts of Jamaica and Dominican Republic, and maybe even knocking on the door here to parts of Puerto Rico. And that just continues. Look at this. Yeah, we do get several rounds of showers and thunderstorms from the Yucatan to the Bahamas as we head towards the first week of January. That looks like a severe weather outbreak up here into parts of the panhandle of Florida. But, for the most part, there is nothing really to write home about here. So here we go for the tropics, liquid equivalent. Look at this. So, yeah, this is taking us through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. Look at those heavy rains here. We'll just continue a little bit through next week. You can see most of the rainfall from Belize, especially the coastal Honduras areas, all the way up into parts of northern Jamaica here. The Cayman Islands really getting hit. Parts of the central Bahamas as well. This is where I think you'll see 60 to maybe upwards of 100 millimeters. That is a solid 2.5 to maybe locally higher 4 inches. So as we head across the western Caribbean here, look at this. So yeah, with the exception for the central Lesser Antilles, parts of Puerto Rico here, nothing more than, say, 4 to 8 millimeters here. Nothing to write home about. But look at next week. Yeah, it stays mostly dry unless you're over towards Haiti, the Dominican Republic, especially the Turks and Caicos here into the Bahamas. I think you'll see a good 50 to maybe 80 millimeters here solid 2 to 3 inches. So what's going on here in the Western Pacific? Well, let's see. There is not a whole lot happening out here. It's Japan and South Korea's cold season as well as China's cold season, especially up here in the northern areas. But as we go out here in time, you do not see a whole lot of weather happening here across parts of the Philippines, through Vietnam here and over to South China and Thailand in these areas. So really not too much to write home about. You know, some gusty showers here towards January 4th after you ring in the new year. And look at this, as we head towards the first week of January, we do start to get some of these proverbial blobs out here that we'll have to keep an eye on for potential development. And don't go anywhere. I just have more weather here in just a moment. Check out my affiliate here, these awesome maps. Have a look at this. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. So here's your temperature outlook. Yeah, it does not look winter-like here for your Wednesday, December 27th, Ohio Valley. Into the northeast, upper 40s and lower 50s. And look at here into the plains with that blizzard tapering off here as we head into Thursday. Yeah, the snow cover really keeping you below freezing here in the plains, but most to the east, look at this. Yeah, we're just continuing to swelter here. That raging inferno ridge here continuing, keeping your holiday plans as we head towards New Year's. I know, towards the 29th here. Things are very mild. Let's see if we can actually search out some colder air here as we head into Saturday, December 30th. Yeah, here we go. So you start to see, this cold blast here across the northern plains. But look at Texas and Florida. You are setting yourselves up here for a very nice New Year's weekend. Here's New Year's Eve. Look at this. Sunday, December 31st, the high temperatures, 60s and maybe some 70s South Florida here. Look at here across the Midwest and the Northeast. This is where we start to see the pivot point for some colder air. Although, look at New Year's Day, that kind of moderates a bit, although we're still, we're holding into the 30s here across much of the Northeast, Ohio Valley region. Extended outlook from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Take a look at this. So as we get through Wednesday and Thursday and even Friday, it's just going to be rain, and more rain. The only good news is there's nothing torrential. So through this forecast period, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch each day. That's going to add us up to about 1 inch to 1.25 inches through the end of the week. Hopefully no flooding here. It will get the rivers high, but I'm not expecting any major or even moderate flooding, maybe getting close to being full. But look at this, as we get towards the weekend, those temperatures staying pretty much in the 40s. We start to cool it down a little bit towards the lower 40s through the end of the weekend. But look at that. Yeah. 50s to start off here. That is not too bad. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MeteoMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.